Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into my podcast, The Communication Artist, aka The Calm Artist. I'm Michaela Noel, an active learner in the crisis communication community. Today you'll join me in the process of breaking down the good intentions tactic. Technically, this tactic sits under the evasion of responsibility category, one of the five major image restoration strategies that organizations, brands, and influencers use when things go wrong, especially amidst a wave of cancel culture. But this month's crisis is coming from American Eagle and Dunkin' Donuts, which grew to offer a front row seat into how the good intentions tactic is used. So, what is the good intentions tactic? Have you ever heard an influencer respond to public backlash by saying, "Oops, that wasn't my intention. I meant well. I didn't know that that was offensive"? It's one of the most common things people say when a statement or action isn't received by the public the way they originally hoped. Whether it's a friend or a celebrity or a brand, it's often the go-to phrase that tries to explain how unintentional the harm was. Whether it was an accident, a misunderstanding, or a misread moment, stating good intentions is a psychological reflex for everyone. And with crisis communication, it's more than a reflex, it's a strategy. Now, when someone tries to explain themselves during a controversy, it's not about being defensive. Sometimes they're just trying to say, wait, that's not what I meant, emphasizing their original intent. And in their mind, that's supposed to clear up the tension. There's a psychological term called the attribution theory. It's when we try to figure out where the blame belongs. Within the attribution theory, there's two directions that we psychologically go to. The first direction could be an internal attribution, which means there's an acknowledgement that the problem came from within the person or brand. We'd acknowledge that it happened due to their values, beliefs, or decision making that led to the outcome. And the second option is external attribution, which means the blame is an external, uncontrollable situation such as environment, context, misunderstanding, or something that happened that wasn't particularly chosen to. So let's say a brand responds to a crisis, saying it wasn't meant that way, or it was taken out of context. The brand would hope to acknowledge the external attribution and shift the blame not toward the company values or credibility, but toward the misunderstanding between the audience and the company instead, which would allow the company to evade taking responsibility for the problem. Let's take American Eagle's recent response to a crisis as an example. They casted Sydney Sweeney for an American Eagle denim jean ad, with a campaign called Sydney Sweeney Has Great Jeans. The audience took the phrasing as a pun toward genetics rather than genes. Looking through the lens of the audience, their argument was that according to the campaign's tone, the model's look, their styling, and history of fashion marketing, Sydney Sweeney's blonde, blue-eyed, and thin appearance is the exact historic look that fashion praised as the blueprint for beauty, while other appearances got ignored. So how did American Eagle respond to this reaction from the audience? Here's their official statement word for word. Quote, "Sydney Sweeney has great jeans is and always was about the jeans. Her jeans, her story. Dot, dot, dot. Great jeans look good on everyone." End quote. So do you see what they did there? It's a clear strategic response that exercised an expression of their good intentions plus external attribution. They explained their intent. It's just about denim. They denied the deeper reading that the audience had. It wasn't about genetics. And they made it about the viewer's misunderstanding, basically saying this audience read into it wrong. In short, they honestly said, it's not our fault if you read into it too deeply. That wasn't the point. And that's evasion of responsibility, a shift of blame away from the organization, brand, or influencer. The audience's reaction to this response was divided. One side says, I love how direct they were and standing on their ground of intent. And the other side says, so we're just going to pretend this has no subtle offensive messaging. To be honest, I know this episode is about going over the evasion of responsibility strategy, but I really wish they chose a path that holds a bit more accountability. Sometimes good intentions can be paired with corrective action and internal attribution rather than external attribution. So I hope you don't mind that I add my 2 cents. In a real conflict, sometimes it's not always about stating what you intended to do or say. It's about the offended party hearing that you understand how they were affected and how it made them feel. It's not about correcting their misunderstanding. It's about validating their interpretation of the impact and meeting them there. So I wrote a short message to display what I wish they added to their message. My quote: "We realize beauty standards in fashion have a long history, and our campaign overlooked how this could have been interpreted. While our goal was to celebrate confidence, we also recognize the weight this campaign can carry, and we're actively reflecting on that. American Eagle wants everyone to feel confident in their skin, in their heritage, and in the story that their own genes and genes tell. After all, this is about genes, and we hope you embrace your good genes too." End quote. Let me know what you think of my apology letter. Now, this wasn't a message that was an entire evasion of responsibility, since they would have mentioned their responsibility in creating a sensitive ad. However, it still states their good intentions while still taking accountability. But in my eyes, that's it. I really would have liked for them to make that one shift from "you misunderstood American Eagle" to "American Eagle could have communicated better." Speaking of communicating better, let's talk about someone who hasn't communicated at all: Dunkin' Donuts. Shortly after the American Eagle backlash, Dunkin' shared a commercial featuring actor Gavin Casallegna. In the ad, he smiles into the camera holding Dunkin's new drink, and within the script, he mentions that he's king of the summer due to his genetics paired with Dunkin's new golden hour refresher. I feel like the backlash was loading for American Eagle, but as soon as Dunkin' followed up a week later with this ad, it was a catalyst to a much louder crisis due to the combo reinforcement of a specific image of beauty. And still, as of the time of this recording, there hasn't been any public response. No clarification or comment, just 5 days of silence in a moment that an audience has begged for acknowledgement. So, what do you think they should do? I honestly say the same combo that I mentioned for American Eagle. Keep the good intentions tactic, but don't pair it with external attribution. Pair it with internal attribution instead. Make a human statement like, quote, "We've seen the responses to our recent ad, and while it was meant to be playful, we now understand how a word like genetics can be received differently for people, especially those carrying the weight of beauty standards they never asked for. We didn't mean to echo that history, and we know that intent doesn't erase impact. So we'll keep listening, learning, and driving our commitment to showing up with care, context, and creativity so everyone feels seen in the stories we tell moving forward." And my quote. I think that's a proper use of good intentions. Not just focusing on stating what you intended, but highlighting your understanding of what the other party felt and offering validation. I'd also advise they ring out a new campaign. This is going to sound a little silly, but hear me out. They have a golden hour beverage to promote. Great. But how about building a creative tie-in to the message behind the K-pop Demon Hunters theme song Golden? With the Golden theme already trending thanks to K-pop fandoms and the Huntrix soundtrack racking up millions of streams, the synergy's already there. I don't mean by using the song itself, but by reinforcing the values of self-acceptance that the film represents. Because what is the movie really about? It's not about perfection, not even performance. It's about owning your mistakes, your shame, your humanity, and rising and growing from it. Imagine a campaign called Golden After All. Showcase people of different races, sizes, genders, and stories, not all shining because of their glowy genetics, but because of their growth. The message then becomes your glow doesn't come from your genetics, it comes from your growth. That's not just marketing recovery, that would literally be a cultural correction. And that's how they could take their silent moment and turn it into an impactful statement. Plus, kids would be lining up for their strawberry frosted donuts and golden drinks with their favorite trending movie. That's storytelling, that's inclusivity, that's strategy. So if you're ever faced with backlash, whether it's you, your brand, your client, and you're tempted to say, "Hey, I meant well," just remember, intention without reflection is just noise. But intention with humility, accountability, and creativity is where I lean. To me, that's powerful. I'm here for the good intention and internal attribution combo all the way. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think of my Duncan pitch? Should I send it in? If anyone from Duncan is listening, my inbox is totally open. Anyway, thanks everyone for listening, and I'll catch you next time on The Calm Artist. Bye.